Welcome, Jay Bhakta, to the Edtech Blueprint. We're just going to dive right in. So, Jay, I'd love to start with an intro. I'd love for you to tell people a little bit about who you are and what you do.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Henry. So my name is Jay Bhakta. I've been an entrepreneur for majority of my career. I had 20 years of experience in the tax industry, so I got to see a lot of emotional and financial behaviors of a lot of people preparing thousands of tax returns. And past 10 years, I've been heavily into masterminds, coaching, just rewiring my operating system the way I think. And now I get to take all those skills that I've developed and I get to pass it on to kids in my program.
Wonderful. And what's the name of your program?
It's called Base Case and Build. It's a program where it teaches children and teenagers life skills that's not covered in the traditional education system, like emotional intelligence, financial literacy, and effective leadership. All the skills that'll set them apart from their peers and prepare them for the real world.
That's amazing. I'd love for you to tell us a little bit about the origin story of Base Case and Build and what got you into that.
So, as I mentioned earlier, I made a ton of investments in businesses. I could tell you right now, most of them weren't sound. I didn't have the principles and frameworks to make proper decisions, but I was just told that, hey, if you want to, you just gotta, if you want to succeed or if you want to make money, you just gotta dive in and take a chance. And I could tell you right now, you do it, definitely you take a chance, but there's better ways of doing things to mitigate your risks. But as I was going through these programs and coaching and learning all these concepts, you start reflecting on the way that I made decisions in the past, and I'm like, I would have done so many things differently. I wouldn't have maybe I might have looked at what could possibly go wrong in scenarios instead of just looking at what could be go right. Because we get so emotionally high on investments that you don't even think about what could possibly go wrong. So maybe I could have mitigated some of these risks, but obviously I can't go back in time and change things. But I was like, well, how can I teach this to my son? At the time he was 14, so that he doesn't go through these mistakes. Now, obviously, kids are going to make mistakes no matter what you teach them. It's part of life. That's how they learn. But if it's calculated mistakes, they could easily get back on path instead of steering in the wrong direction. But I was like, well, if I just start teaching him these concepts and talking directly at him, he's going to be like, why is dad lecturing me again? So I had to figure out a way to get this message across to him without it feeling like a lecture. So what I did is I was like, let me get a group of kids together. So I started off as a hobby, ages 14 to 16, and I started teaching a new concept every week. I would share my experiences, give real life scenarios and situations that they can relate to, and then I would go task them to go talk to their parents about what they learned, and it worked out really well. The kids were learning things that they don't learn in the schools. It was actually helping them excel in everything they do in school. And the parents were loving it because now the kids were approaching them with conversations, so then it didn't feel like a lecture anymore. It was started and initiated by the kids, so it opened up the floodgates for even deeper, more meaningful conversations. So I was only going to do one cohort, but my wife was like, well, you can't forget your 10-year-old daughter. So I was like, well, she's only 10 years old. How much of this stuff can really apply to her in her life? She's like, why don't you just sit down and talk to her about her day? So I sat down, I started asking, digging a little deeper about what's going on in her day at school, and I couldn't believe how much drama even a 10-year-old goes through. So I was like, you know what? She needs this just as much as the older kids. So I expanded the age range. I added more kids, ages 10 and up. It worked out really well. These concepts apply to kids regardless of their age. And what I found is some of the older kids were becoming leaders to the younger kids. And when you share your knowledge with others, it helps you retain it even more. So it worked out really well, and then now this became my full-time thing. So I moved on from the tax business, which I had 6 offices at one time, and now I do this full-time, and I just teach kids all these valuable skills that's lacking in the traditional education system.
That's an incredible founding story, realizing your own personal and family needs for the service, and then realizing that there were others that could use it as well. I'm really curious. I'm going to transition into a bit about what Base Case and Build actually does, could you tell us a little bit about the products and services that your company offers?
Yeah, we talk about emotional intelligence, but what does that mean? I mean, that word gets thrown around a lot, so there's a little confusion as far as what it is that's actually being taught to the kids. But emotional intelligence is the ability to get what you want. So what we do in our program is we enhance your child's ability to get what they want in life. So it's through communication skills, their awareness, um, leadership skills, financial literacy, all these skills that will enhance their ability to get what they want in life. And if you think about it, if you don't have these skills to get what you want in life, then what are you moving towards, right? One of the concepts we talk about, closer over more. So we want them to move closer to the things that they want instead of chasing more of the things that don't matter. When I first started the program, it was all emotional intelligence, and as some of the kids were graduating into college, I realized that they lacked the financial literacy skills. I mean, like you could be emotionally intelligent and be broke, or you could be financially literate and wealthy and be emotionally wrecked. So that's why I created two different pillars in this program, which are equally important, which is emotional intelligence, financial literacy, and there's also leadership that we talk about.
Wonderful.
The most powerful thing for me is restraint. It's so easy to get excited about the new shiny object that you you don't really consider what could possibly go wrong. It happens a lot, especially with social media and people blasting that, hey, jump on this stock or this crypto investment, and by the time it's blasted in the media, it's probably too late. You're probably too late in the game for it. But I could tell you right now, I was guilty of trying to jump in on the get rich quick schemes. How can I make money the fastest possible way? And most of the times I got wrecked because I wasn't making sound decisions when I was doing it. I didn't have any frameworks. And I kept making the same mistakes over and over again because when you don't have the right frameworks, you don't know how to correct, get right back on the right path. So sometimes I steered way off course and have to fumble my way back and get back on path, which might have taken years. So with the kids, we want to kind of avoid that situation where when they do make mistakes, I'm not, they are going to make mistakes. They're going to be able to get back on course much quicker than their peers.
What's one belief about teaching kids that you have that others would probably disagree with?
So one of the things that I could say right now is that societal norms is that you go through school, you get your highest GPA and grades, and from there you go to a college, and from there you get a job, 9 to 5 job. Through the whole process, kids really don't get a chance to think for themselves. They don't get to think outside the box and be creative, or even think about how they can use their passion that they have towards a career. A lot of kids coming out of high school lose their identity because their identity is built on activities and sports in high school, and when they don't have that in college, they're lost. They really don't know what they want to do, and sometimes they just pick what everybody else is doing, and it's usually not the right thing. So, I mean, the way I look at it is, a lot of times you spend a lot of money on college to find out what you don't want to do in life, and that's a pretty expensive bill to pay to go through and figure out 5, 6 years down the road that this is not really what I wanted to do in life. And you know, the way I mean, a lot of the kids that are doing the program will probably still go to college. They'll get a career, but if they decide that this is not what they want to do, they'll easily be able to adapt and make an adjustment and steer into a direction that they know that they're more passionate about because they have the skills to do so. And when you don't have the frameworks to do it, then you're just gonna get stuck doing something that you don't enjoy.
What are your 5 core beliefs you have about teaching kids and educating them, preparing them for the future? And could you tell me a little bit about each of those beliefs?
Yeah, I think the biggest belief is understanding what it is that you want in life, right? So if you don't define what it is that you want, and this is a mistake that most adults even make, and they go through their entire life without ever defining what it is that they want. To take a time to sit down, and if you define what it is that you want, then you can move toward those goals. And if you get in a habit of doing that throughout your life, then it's easy to make a decision. Because, oh, should I make this decision? Should I do this or should I not do this? Well, first of all, what is it that you want in life? And if it hits that area of where you want to move closer to, then yes, do it. If it doesn't, then you're just chasing more of something that doesn't really lead you on the path to where you want to go. So I guess that the first core belief is to define what it is that you want. Second is restraint. You have to practice restraint because in a day and age right now with the social media and everything's so fast paced. Everybody wants to move so fast that they don't take the time to actually evaluate their decisions, if it's the right decision or if it's the wrong decision. So pausing and taking the time to reflect on what's going on, it's a valuable skill which most people don't have. Restraint is a big part of it. Receptivity is another one. You know, there's so many people that are stuck in their ways. As you get older, you get stuck in your ways. It's very hard to change course. But being receptive is a superpower because when you're receptive, you're open to new ideas, learning, trying new things. And when you're not receptive, you're stuck. Your life stalls. You can't grow as a person, and that's a tough place to be in. So being receptive is key. Now, I'm not saying that you should accept all the new ideas that are around you, but at least be open to what's going on around you. And a lot of people are not. Kids, adults, and as you get older, you get stuck in your ways. So learning the skill of receptivity at a young age is powerful. Let's see, two more beliefs. Let's see. Another belief is a belief in yourself. I mean, it's so easy when you have an obstacle in front of you that you put doubt in your own minds and you start telling yourself stories for why you can't do it or why you shouldn't do it or why it's not possible. But when you take a look at some of these obstacles as challenges and say, you know what, I'm not gonna any obstacle that comes in my way, I'm gonna look at it as a challenge. Then that's how you progress and you accomplish more than you ever thought was possible. But a lot of people end up telling all these stories and they justify why they haven't accomplished something in life, and that's something that I would say is a core belief of mine is not to make up good stories in your own head and your own mind to justify why you haven't done something. And then when you stop doing that, you'll be able to do a lot more than you could ever thought was possible. It's like a compound effect when you start doing little things that you normally wouldn't do because you don't think it's possible, and it just starts compounding into a whole different level. So keep doing that, repeatedly, then you're gonna move really far in life. I guess another belief is just putting the reps in. Like right now, I could tell you right now, there's so many people that they want to look for the shortcut. They're just trying to find a way to you know take the elevator instead of taking the steps, right? And when you take the steps, you could build on top of each step to get to your goal. But when you take the elevator, you skip a lot of stuff. But one of the things that the people skip is the frequency part of it, is the reps. Putting anything that you want to do in life, you have to master the skill first before you can move to the next stage. And people want to find the easiest shortcut to move to the next stage. So I would say the next core value for mine is just put the work in, put the reps in, and then once you master that skill, and then you can move to the next level and you can put your unique twist to it. And then who knows, maybe you find your purpose in life. But you have to do the first step, which is do the work.
What I love about those core beliefs is that those are foundational things that if you actually believe, value, and live out as a student, then you're going to experience massive success. So that sounds like a very solid foundation for how to approach growing, both as an individual and as a student. I want to transition for a moment. We've been talking about the business. I want to talk a little bit more about, what parents are experiencing and get into a little bit more of the nitty-gritty of how their kids are growing through the program. So the first question is, what are the top 3 to 5 mistakes that parents typically do when they're trying to even start to have the conversation with their kids about emotional intelligence or leadership or financial literacy?
I would say the first mistake that parents make is they don't ask permission. You know, if you want to talk to your kids about something, make sure that they're on board first before you start talking to them, and set the tone first. So if I want to talk to my kid about stocks, I would ask them, hey, Avi, are you open to me talking, telling you a little bit about stocks and how to make some trades that could help you make some money? And if he says yes, now he's giving you permission to have a conversation. And that's pretty important, because if I just go straight to him and say, hey Avi, I want to talk to you about stocks and how to make money, come sit down over here, and he's probably caught sometime, if he's caught off guard or in the middle of something else or not in the mood for it, then you're going to get some backlash, or they're not going to listen and they're not going to be receptive to it.
So let's say I'm this parent and I get past that hurdle, I ask for permission. What's another mistake or maybe even a myth that keeps me from a parent from helping my kid actually achieve that outcome of actually understanding finances, emotional intelligence, and leadership?
Yeah, so I think sometimes when the parents speak, they do most of the talking. So I would say that let your child talk, and then ask open-ended questions that allow the children to talk, because sometimes if you ask a question like, "Hey, how was your day today?" then they're gonna come back with one-word answers like fine, good, or okay. So asking questions in a different light, for example, "Hey, what did you love about your day today?" and that will open up a whole different type of answer, and you might even learn something. And so when your child is the ones that's doing most of the talking, you're learning something about them that helps you relate to them and have conversations with them. So when sometimes we kind of discount what the child is feeling or thinking in certain scenarios, but we kind of overlook it or don't even really consider what could be going in their minds. But once they start speaking and they start getting comfortable doing it, then they'll open up and they'll share a lot of things, and you're like, wow, I never would have even thought that this is what was going on.
Okay, so I'm a parent, and let's say I've passed on some of my wisdom, but I'm still not getting those results. What I love about Base Case and Build, that the tagline, the focus is teaching kids the strategies of the top 1% of the wealthy. Not just the strategies, but the habits, the mindsets, the tactics. Can you talk about what you've learned and what you teach about what the top 1% of the wealthy do around emotional intelligence, leadership, and financial literacy that the other 99% miss entirely?
The biggest is they learn. They're constantly learning. The top 1% they don't stop, right? They don't stop and say, okay, I already know it all. There's always something to learn, and if intelligence is the ability to get what you want, learning is changing your behavior so you get what you want, right? So I would say that the top 1% is constantly learning, and that's the program. When we talk about different concepts, emotional intelligence and financial literacy, it's never the same thing, but you never know which one is gonna hit. You never know which one is gonna be that aha moment and say, oh wow, now I get it, right? So you have to have different perspective, and you got to be constantly learning. Even now, I'm still learning, even though I have a ton of uh, time spent in coaching and programs and books and all this stuff. But I'm constantly learning because there's always something to improve on. And there's this thing they talk about. It's called live to learn, give to earn. And I would say the top percent is, no matter if they're on the top of a mountain or in the valley, they're constantly learning. And then next, what they do is they earn their wisdom by sharing it with others. So they don't just keep it to themselves. They bring others up with them in the journey. So
Wonderful. So you've had tons of sessions where kids are learning these skills and these tools. I'm really curious, what is one story, like one customer highlight of a student that really took this and went far or had a lot of success with what they learned?
so one of the kids that just graduated from high school this last year and now in college, he was he was a very motivated kid. He wanted to do everything. Like he wanted to, "Hey, how can I make money doing this? How can I make money doing that?" But a lot of these concepts helped him slow down and focus and evaluate his choices. We call it the soft offense. When you have so many different options, how do you know which path to take? Well, you play the soft offense and you put gentle pressure on each one of these situations, and the right situation will come forward. And this is really important for kids, especially when they're transitioning out of high school to college, because how do you know which college to go to or which career to choose or which job to work at? I mean, there's just so many different things to choose from, and uh, the concepts really helped him kind of hone down on his path, especially closer over more understanding what it is that he really wanted in life. It's a tough decision because societal norms will tell you something differently, right? And says that, hey, you should do this, or you should be here, or you shouldn't do that. And understanding that it's his life and he knows what he wants to do, and with his skills that he has learned, he's going to be able to accomplish it. So the confidence that he knows that he's going to be all right regardless of what path he chooses. So he transitioned from high school to college, um, and he's doing really well, and he's networking. So the biggest skill I could say that he got is just networking. Like he's building his network base. He's come to some events that we've held, and he's got to meet some people, extraordinary people, have conversations, see what they're doing, what they're building in the real world. And from one of the connections, he actually got a job. So he got a job that he was looking exactly what he was looking for. It was a sales position, and someone that took him under his wing and mentored him. And he's doing really well his first year out of college.
You mentioned some terms there that the audience might not be familiar with, soft offense, and a few other ones. Tell me a little bit more about these terms or concepts, kind of where they come from, and maybe why we don't hear about them in the wild.
I learned soft offense from my coach and mentor, Dr. Jeff Spencer, and when he mentioned soft offense, I mean, I was kind of transitioning out of the tax business into my next phase, and he talked about soft offense. He's like, well, you got all these different options, but you got to put the work in. So all these opportunities is not just going to fall in your lap. You have to put the work in, and make sure that opportunities are coming forward. Doesn't mean you take every opportunity. You play the soft offense in the sense that, okay, now if you have three different opportunities, which one do you take? Well, you put a little bit of pressure on each one of them. Maybe add a little bit to each scenario situation, and then some of them might phase themselves out. So, okay, that does not fit into what I want to do. And eventually, if you keep putting pressure on it, maybe you're down to two eventually. Then you keep doing the same tactic, and then one of them will phase themselves out, and okay, this is the clear path I need to take. So the soft offense is it's very helpful for even like a career choice for a kid coming out of high school. Maybe it's activities, sports. It's a what classes to take. Who knows? You can play soft offense on a lot of things. But it's a really good way when you're overwhelmed with options and you don't know which one to take. But you have to kind of practice a little restraint, slow down, and then make the right one come forward and have the patience to do that.
Sounds like these are incredible concepts, even for adults, to apply and to experience more success. So, how do you take these concepts that have been tested and proven, and then actually scale them down and apply them so that kids can learn them and realize those benefits?
Yeah, with kids, it's like you want to teach them so much. Like you have so much that you want to share with the kids, but the best thing to do is to slow down because less is more, right? So with the concepts, like for example, close over more, break it down to one specific goal that the child might have. Instead of talking about a list of stuff, let's just take a look at the most immediate constraint that you're dealing with right now, and it could be excelling in a sport, it could be excelling in a class, it could be improving a skill. There's so many there's different things, but then just honing in on one specific task and applying it, and then moving to the next, because it's so hard to get overwhelmed with so many things to do, and you want to do it all, and when you have that, sometimes you don't get none of it done, right? So you want to kind of focus on the most immediate constraint with the kids and make it in a way that they could relate it. So each one of the concepts, it's easy for me because I have two kids, so whenever I do a lesson or when I do a concept, I'm always thinking through the lens of my kids. Like if they're not gonna understand it or if they're not gonna be able to apply it, then I'm not gonna share it, right? So there's no point in me sharing anything unless the kids are gonna get something out of it. And I look at it through the lens of my kids, and that's my way of saying that, okay, yes, this will benefit my daughter and my son. I'm gonna share it with the kids.
So let's say I'm a parent and I love these concepts, closer over more, um, and but I choose not to do this program. What are the alternatives to getting this like sort of high level information? How much would it cost to just kind of go out there and try to get all this on your own and then present it to your kid on your own?
Yeah, I mean, I think most of the parents, like in my generation, we had to figure things out ourselves. We didn't have these tools growing up, and some parents are like, "Hey, well, we figured it out ourselves, so the kids will figure it out." To me, that's a pretty risky proposition because I mean, how do you know the kids are gonna get back on path? How do you know the kids have the right frameworks not to get emotionally wrecked, regardless of how much money they're making? You know, it's we talk about passing generational wealth down to kids, but how do you know they're going to keep it and maintain it and still get the things that they want in life, right? So yeah, for a parent that I mean, I would be, I mean, I'm biased, but I don't see any reason why you wouldn't want to put your kids in a program like this, because we talk about receptivity. I mean, I've had some parents that said, "Hey, my kids are very advanced and they're well ahead of their peers and all this other stuff," but I firmly believe that there's always room to learn. It's always good to get different perspectives. So even my kids are in this program with me. I've actually signed them up for other programs. I even have a coach that coaches them, which is, you know, which is you, Henry, right? So I am I always want my kids to be receptive because I know that there's just not one way of doing things. There's other ways of doing things. There's better way of doing the things, or something might hit home differently than the way I teach it. I honestly don't know why you wouldn't. I always want to improve my kids' skills in whatever they do, and emotional intelligence, financial literacy that I can think of. I don't see any programs out there that really teaches it to the level that we do. You know, um, a new concept in a community environment with kids, interaction. Creating this journey with the family together. There's programs out there where it's just a child, but if the kids are taking the program, then there's a disconnect when they go home because the parents aren't involved. So I would say from looking at programs out there, this is probably the only one that teaches these real life skills and brings the whole family along in the journey with them.
I've done a bit of market research, and from the skills that you're talking about, the concepts that they're learning, I've seen them teaching these things in $10,000 masterminds, $20,000 masterminds. I've seen some communities of practice. You mentioned um, Dr. Jeff Spencer,
Hmm.
where you sign up for a high ticket amount in order to get access even to hear some of these skills, strategies, tactics. habits that the 1% use. So from what I've seen, it's it can be people place a really high premium on learning these skills, and it's amazing that kids can actually learn them and start young, without having to pay $10,000 to be a part of a mastermind.
Yep. Yeah, I mean, one of the things that I firmly believe is that if you want to remove suffering in the world, um, make sure it doesn't happen in the first place, right? So, typically people join these masterminds and they've experienced some sort of trauma, or they're stuck in life in some place, or you know, they, they got to a point where they need some sort of help, and then they join and they pay these large amounts for these masterminds to course correct. But if these kids learn it at an age earlier and they get it embedded in their operating system and rewire them, at an early age, then they might need to avoid that trauma that a lot of us have gone through in our adult lives, right? They I just look at it as a unfair advantage that most kids don't have. Most adults don't even have at this point. So.
So I'm curious. We've talked a lot about what content the kids are learning, where it comes from, how it helps them. Uh, but the burning question, I'm sure, that's on lots of people's minds is how do you make all this content fun?
So first of all, when the kids get an opportunity to think creatively, and they start thinking of outside the box, and they start seeing stuff that they don't teach in schools, because when in the schools they have to go down a certain path, and they're not allowed to think beyond those, steer from that path, right? They get reprimanded when they think that way. But when the kids are given the opportunity to think at a different level, it excites them, right? And then if once they start applying this and they could see the benefits, for example, if they want to improve in a sport, and they apply this and they have this mental edge that they didn't have before, then it gives them an advantage and they get excited, like, oh wow, okay, hey, now I'm getting the results that I want. And everybody loves stories. Everybody loves stories. So when we do these lessons, we're sharing a lot of stories. The kids are sharing their stories. So kids get to hear stories throughout this lesson. So to me, when I hear stories, it's always fun, and I think the kids love hearing these stories as well. Real life examples of famous people who have used these concepts. Our stories. The peer stories. It's just so many stories that go along with the concepts, and that's what makes it fun and interactive and engaging.
So that makes a lot of sense, particularly for emotional intelligence and leadership, even self-leadership in sports. I know there are a lot of kids out there that maybe they're younger, they don't really have a place to practice, let's say, financial literacy skills. So how do you give them an opportunity to put that into practice and maybe even have some fun learning about something like finances?
So one of the things that we do is we task them to go talk to their parents about it, right? So then there's always some sort of action that they need to take after each lesson. When it comes to financial literacy concepts, sometimes the parents aren't thinking about doing a certain step or action that might help, but when the kids bring it up, they're like, "Oh, okay, yes, I could set that up for you." For example, maybe setting up a custodial account for them to trade some stocks, so they could put some money in there and start testing it out, right? It's sorry, I lost my train of thought.
No worries.
I forgot what the question was.
Yeah, I think I read somewhere that there's some ways to practice financial literacy through some games or
Oh,
uh, s- some
yes.
some fun ways that way.
Yeah, so one of the ways that we make it fun and interactive is through the cash flow game. It's a game by Robert Kiyosaki that teaches kids how to get out of the rat race. We have virtual workshops that we do for cash flow because we have kids from all over the country that are in the program, but we also have in-person cash flow games that we do locally here, and the kids love it. The kids love it because we share strategies and tactics that they'll help them uh, get out of the rat race quicker, and it really does open up their eyes as far as just a second. When the time comes, when I do have money in my hand or when I do have income coming in, how am I gonna use it or how am I gonna apply it? Is this gonna give me passive income or is it just gonna sit in my bank account and not get me closer to getting out of the rat race, right? So this, constantly playing the cash flow game is a fun way of getting the kids to interact, and we get to tie in our concepts that we teach, our emotional intelligence, financial literacy lessons, our concepts that we teach, apply it in the decisions that they make while they're playing the game. So we're combining the best of both worlds through the process.
So it's the year 2025. Parents are looking out, figuring out their plans for their kids. They want them to grow, be more educated, learn, get better at these skills. What's the most important thing for a parent to focus on, or the best way that you would say from your experience to approach this year 2025 to help their kids grow in emotional intelligence, leadership, and financial literacy?
Yeah, the first thing I would say is that you don't have to do it. You don't have to do it all alone, right? No one wins alone. That's what Dr. Jeff Spencer says, right? So you have a tool like Base Case and Build that's gonna relay these valuable skills to your kids. Just get started, right? Don't think that there's a right time to do it or I'll wait until then, this moment, and that's a mistake that you make. Just get the kids in, get them started, and once they're in, and the repetition is going to be the key. So it's not one of those things that say, hey, for 6 months I'm going to do it, for 6 months I'm not. You want to have that constant repetition and embedded in their minds that, hey, this is the way it's supposed to be, right? You're supposed to have these type of communication skills, leadership skills. You're supposed to think about investing this way. These are financial literacy skills I need to think about. But if you start going in and out or saying, hey, you know what, I'll wait until this moment, that's probably the biggest mistake. I mean, the right time is now. Just why would you want to wait?
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much, Jay, for taking some time and doing this podcast. I think there's a lot of value here for parents, and I got a lot of value out of it. Is there any last things you want to say before we hop off?
Yeah, just it's surprising what the kids pick up. I could tell you I was guilty of it before I started this program. I discounted what my kids would be able to do and accomplish. But once you give them the opportunity and you put them in the right setting and environment, they will surprise you. So you just have to put them in the right place and believe that they're going to be able to accomplish it. But you just have to believe that don't put your internal beliefs on what you think the kids are going to be able to accomplish. Let them show you.
Wonderful. Well, Jay, thanks again. I wish Base Case and Build much success and look forward to talking to you soon.
Thanks, Henry.
Take care.